This week on You Should Be Watching, we talk about how San Diego Comic-Con has officially been canceled in 2020. We talk about how DC movies like The Batman are getting new release dates, and we talk about how Westworld and DEVS are thematically similar, but DEVS is the one to watch. That's this week on You Should Be Watching. Hey guys, and welcome to a new episode of You Should Be Watching. I'm joined by Greg and Mike and Meg are back. Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Doing pretty well. How are you?
Good, thank you very much. Yeah, we're all working from home. We did this podcast together once, but now we are doing it work from home style, all in our bedrooms. I like your dog, Meg. I'm glad that I get to see your dog during this podcast.
Thank you. He'll be a background actor for the duration of the podcast.
Yeah, Mike's got great dogs too. Mike has 2 dogs. If you are not familiar with Mike's dogs, Mike, tell us about your dogs.
They're good dogs. You know, they would love to be in the room, but they're not as good as Beasley at sitting still. So, unfortunately,
Beasley is a professional napper. This is his number one resume skill: is sleeping like he is right now.
I love it. All right, so let's get together and talk about what we've been watching lately that we would recommend to the audience. So a little segment called What's on Your TV. Greg, let's start with you. What have you been watching?
Well, this weekend I just watched, for the first time since I think it came out in 2001, Moulin Rouge. I don't know.
Wow. This is the first time you've seen it since it came out?
Yep. Yeah.
And how does it hold up for you? Because that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, it's great, but the edit, it drives me insane for the first few minutes. Like, I can't get over it for just how many cuts that movie has over, and it's overblown too. The craft is there, so the editing team, they know what they're doing. This is the same team he's had since Romeo and Juliet and Strictly Ballroom, his first film. But man, there are so many cuts in this thing. I felt like throwing up because I thought I was watching like a bad American like fight film for a second.
Greg,
Close up.
That's how I feel for the duration of Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, the whole movie. It's the entire. It's a love it or hate it. I understand completely if you can't get through it from the first 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes should tell you everything you need to know.
I still have that soundtrack is like still like up at the top of my like recently played Spotify like list. Like it comes up like very frequently.
I love the Elephant Love medley. I think it's great.
Yeah,
big fan.
It's so good.
Well, the thing I love about that movie is just the behind the scenes stuff is so good. Courtney Love tried to play the role for Satine. She didn't get it.
Can you imagine?
But she sold the rights. She sold the rights to Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit," which was meant to go to Marilyn Manson, and she had a huge issue with that. And I think 6 days prior to the release of the film, they had to change it. He was on the cut.
That is fascinating.
And she made them take him off.
I had no idea that any of this happened. That's really interesting, actually. All I took away from Moulin Rouge was a huge crush / obsession with Ewan McGregor after that, and I just watched everything he was in.
That was meant
after
to be,
I saw that movie.
That was Leo. That meant to be Leo. I know we're going to talk about not the beach entirely, but Garland a little bit later on.
Courtney Love and Leo.
Yep. A different timeline. In a different.
That would have been wild.
In a different timeline.
Oh my God.
In an Alex Garland timeline, Leo, who can't sing, who brings up that he cannot sing, and that's why he didn't get the role, would have been singing to Courtney Love. So, all right.
God.
So that movie just was completely forgotten about in a different timeline because I don't think that would have been a hit at all.
That would have destroyed so many careers, probably.
It truly sounds even worse than the version that exists.
It really
does. I'm not saying much because I have nothing nice to say about it, but yeah,
that sounds
terrible.
That's totally fine.
I'm so deeply unsurprised that you hate Moulin Rouge, Mike. Like, I can't believe how not surprising this is to me.
Not at all.
We've never talked about this before, but I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, of course.
I like musicals.
I'm not surprised, but I still love it. I think it's mostly the musical part.
I like musicals. I just don't like that movie.
Yeah, it's a jukebox musical, so it's still subjective. If you don't like the music, you're going to be like, all right, I'm done.
I mean, I like Nirvana and David Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too.
Fair enough.
It's still, boy, it's a lot of movies.
All right. Meg, what are you watching?
Oh my God. So my quarantine brain has manifested in just me getting like really hyper fixated on new things. Mm-hmm. So my new thing right now is BTS, the Korean boy band, and I have become completely obsessed. They do a online variety show called Run BTS, which is like free to watch.
Awesome.
It's on their platform called V Live, and it's so much fun and it's so endearing, and it's the only thing that's bringing me any joy right now is just watching these 7 boys do, like, they're basically like game show games. Like it's just funny. It's so cute and it's so fun.
That's great.
And it's very, like, you don't have to like their music to like their show. It's just
Meg,
fun.
is
It's the
this
best.
is this a thing that they have started doing recently because of quarantine, or is this older than that?
This is way older than that. They just finished their 100th episode like last week.
Wow.
Oh,
So
wow.
100.
They've been doing it for
Wait,
a long
how
time.
frequently do they do these? Is this a weekly
Like
thing?
once a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so like sometimes it'll be like we'll send them to like a VR arcade and like make them play VR games against each other. And other times it's
okay.
like the one 2 weeks ago was like, oh, we'll send them to a florist and have them learn how to make flower arrangements. And I'm like, yes, this is perfect.
I love that.
It's
That's so
low
cute.
stakes.
It sounds
and
weirdly
super
pleasant.
cute
That
and
sounds
very good.
delightful.
Yeah.
That sounds
It's
put
so
that on
really
the background.
wholesome.
That's
Pleasant,
why I
wholesome
love it. Is because
entertainment.
it's exactly. It's just
Wait, so where
it's
can people
so-
watch it?
On V Live, which is it's an app, but it's also a website. It's like a bunch of different like K-pop bands have different like shows and stuff, but it's all on there. It's really nice and it's free. It's easy. I just watch it on my phone before I go to bed. The episode's like 20 minutes long. They're
Nice.
perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, what are you watching?
You're gonna laugh at me. I'm finally watching Succession.
Yes. I'm not gonna laugh at you. I'm so happy.
good.
Well-
I'm really happy you're watching this show.
Cousin Greg.
I figured that's you. I figured you would laugh because last year when we were doing the GameSpot, 2019 best of deliberations, there were a bunch of people who were in favor of Succession, and I was skeptical, I think. And so I having started to watch Succession last week, I couldn't help but think of that conversation that I remember having last December.
So where is your opinion now on the show?
I hate all of the characters so much, but I'm like
Because they're awful people.
I'm like halfway through season 2, and have come to realize that that's the point.
Yep.
Yes.
Which is it's foreign for me. Like I don't watch a lot of stuff like that. Like I feel like a lot of people watch reality TV and you hate all of the people on a reality show because they're all, narcissists or whatever. I don't really watch reality TV. I don't watch anything like that. So I am not used to watching something with there are endearing moments, but then you remember that like every single one of those people is a complete monster.
They're
Yep, they're all trying to tear each other down, and it's just fascinating to watch them tear each other down in such a way. And then they like sometimes congratulate each other for doing it. They're like, "Oh, you did it!
Yeah,
You
attaboy.
got me."
Attaboy.
Greg, look at you.
Yeah, look at
Greg.
I see you. Real Machiavellian, Greg.
Yep.
Yeah, so that stuff works, and the music is good, and it's I don't know, it's a good binge. So whatever.
Ooh, that theme song, it's a banger.
Yeah.
I play it every time. I love the theme song.
Chastity, what about you?
Oh, me. Yeah, so I just mostly been watching Community. I mentioned that on this podcast last week, but I rewatched Parasite because my boyfriend had never seen it, so I wanted to see if I was just overhyping it or if someone who knows nothing about it, has no investment in it, just watched it and told me if it was good or not, and he liked it, so I feel redemption.
Has he seen?
It's really good.
The Oscar win wasn't the fact that it won.
He doesn't.
Didn't
he doesn't
no, I mean
care about
for
Oscar
you though,
wins or
but
anything.
for you, having reassurance that it wasn't just
Oh, yeah.
you.
Yes, no, that made me feel reassured as well. But I love this movie, and watching it a third time, this was the third time now, and the first 2 times I watched it were kind of back to back. It was like twice in about 3 weeks, and now that I've had several months away from it and revisiting it, it's nice to revisit without the stress of and the anxiety of what's going to happen next, and just kind of sitting there and enjoying the ride and seeing how it progresses and being able to focus on things like how lighting is used, how it's framed, the purposefulness of like elevation and things like that, and just all the clever things that Bong Joon-ho did with this film was fun to just witness without the stress of being like, this is an extremely tense movie. But like, yeah,
I need to go back and rewatch it. I've only ever watched it the one time,
so
but it
good.
was like,
Has your partner seen Snowpiercer?
it's so tense.
Chastity?
no, I don't
or
think
The
so.
Host?
I don't know. I
Host
don't
is
know if
so
I've seen
good.
The Host. I'll ask.
So
The Host
I-
is really good.
I showed my partner both those films after we watched Parasite, just to like get into the realm, because I like to explain to people that a lot of Bong Joon, he's a lot like Guillermo del Toro with their careers.
Yeah.
So if you watch like even Hellboy leading up to what we got for Shape of Water, it's a good, you can be like, okay, here's Shape of Water, here's Parasite, but you should really go watch The Host, Hellboy, and all these films, and of course for Pan's Labyrinth, he has it too. So you can, their careers really mirror each other down the line, even to their Academy Awards. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
Tarantino.
That's a
and
good point.
Tarantino,
Wow.
he's put them
There
on
is a
both on
parallel.
blast. There's a big parallel with Tarantino as well for some reason.
Interesting. But yeah, Parasite's great. All right, the next segment is This Just In, so let's talk about some of the biggest stories that hit this past week. So first off, we have San Diego Comic-Con 2020 has been canceled. It's officially canceled. Comic-Con International confirmed that for the first time, the annual pop culture celebration is not happening this year, and it is returning in 2021. Those are their plans. So guys, what do you guys think about Comic-Con getting canceled, and how does this change it moving forward?
I think it's kind of a relief because, you know, who would want to do that right now? Like, even if it was on, can you imagine going
No.
to a convention right now,
Not at all.
even a few months from now? Like, it wouldn't feel right. So, you know, I think they did the right thing, as sad as it is for a lot of people.
I'm really bummed out about
Yeah, I
it.
completely agree.
I totally agree that it's definitely the right call, and like even if it were on, I probably would not have gone. But at the same time, I think this will be the first year in 12 years that I haven't gone to Comic-Con.
Wow.
And that's really it's going to be a very weird summer because it's become like a tradition for me in the sense that it's like almost how I benchmark time in the summer. Like there's, you know, pre-Comic-Con summer and then there's post-Comic-Con summer. And it's going to be very weird not to have that. I'm going to have to like completely reframe how I look at time.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like, summer for me for like the last several years, as long as I've been in games, it's E3 and Comic-Con, and now both are not happening. So yeah, it's just a completely different year, and I think just like entertainment itself as a whole is on hold this year. So it's really just like a chance for us to catch up on our backlogs, and I don't know how this changes things moving forward. Yeah, what can you imagine going back, or like what could be done differently after this phase of what we've been living through when we go back to Comic-Con?
My question is whether normally around Comic-Con time, like a bunch of trailers come out, a bunch of news. Obviously, a lot of things have been delayed, like production has been halted pretty much across the industry. But there are presumably still things that are going to come out on time because they were already done before this happened, that normally we would be getting announcements and the hype train would start, would leave the station starting in July. So I would bet that like a lot of studios and networks and streaming platforms are sort of scrambling at this point to figure out,
do their own.
Yeah,
do their own kind of
to figure out
release.
how to like do a digital version like
Like a Nintendo Direct?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Apple,
Yeah.
Nintendo
Something
Direct
with
kind
like
of thing.
some amount of like pomp and pizzazz, but without the full Comic-Con. So I think July still could potentially be an interesting month. But then that decentralization can have ripple effects like for the future, like you're talking about. Like, if this works, maybe like different companies, like Nintendo doesn't really do E3 like traditionally anymore, right? Different companies pull out and do their own thing. So if this works, we could see that going in future years even.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
think that'd be
recommend
great.
that. I think it's great. The only thing that, again, for the heartbreaking thing of all of this is the vendors who are really losing a lot of money here. It's not Tom Hanks and anyone else going in there to this convention to wave their hands and say, here's the trailer. It's the people, those vendors are the ones that are hurt from this. So I feel bad for that they're going to be waiting for a whole nother year. But this is the only thing we could do. It's the only way. And I feel like Hollywood's definitely going to start doing their own little mini review, little mini Nintendo, whatever, or Apple. They'll have someone come out. Some celebrity will say a few things about the movie, and then they'll do a trailer. But I worry that this stuff now, since we're not all, on the same, page for a week of getting dumped with trailers, I wonder what this means in the future now that we have maybe, let's say, a Godzilla movie. It gets a trailer like that gorgeous trailer we got last year. What if that came out in a different venue altogether, how they released the whole thing? Maybe that would have got a little bit more eyes on it. I don't know.
Like you're saying we won't have the exclusives in the room?
Yeah, the exclusives in the room are
like
gone,
the stuff
and you're
that's
going
just for Hall H people. Yeah.
Yep. I think they'll do their own
Yeah.
thing for that. I'm curious to see what the money looks like after that too, because there's got to be some exclusive Hall H stuff that we're not getting anymore, but we're going to see it some other type of way. Whether it's like Nolan always does, though, it's 6 minutes prior to a movie in IMAX theaters where you get a special preview. Maybe we get something like that. They'll have to get creative.
Well, presuming theaters are open in July.
That's another story.
Which is not guaranteed. Because there's
That
not
is
really
another
any way to do something like that on the internet, right? If you put something out on the internet for half of a second at 2:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, someone
it's gone
somewhere,
by Friday.
Yes, well, someone somewhere will capture it and propagate it on Reddit or 4chan or whatever, and it's just out. So there's just no way to do that. I think the saddest thing about Comic-Con not happening this year is we're not going to go and get tacos and margaritas at that place that we love going every Sunday.
No.
So.
Oh
Yeah, that's for
I still want to go to San Diego
the
for
GameSpot
food.
team. It's like once or twice a year we get together in the same location, and Comic-Con is where we usually do that. So yeah, that is a little sad. But I totally agree that we should hope for something digital. Like, it'd be really cool to get a live stream Twitch version of a Hall H panel. Would be really cool from just people chiming in about the film and still generate hype for that thing that is still a little far away, but it'd be really cool. Even if they only have stuff that they sometimes show at Hall H with like art or a logo, but they can have people talk about their experiences.
I still think that should be live from the get-go, no matter what, going forward. I think Hall H should always be live. They should really just try to polish these, and you get more eyes on it regardless.
I have to wonder how... I feel like this is going to be a really good litmus test for how much of like the Comic-Con Hall H experience is contingent on being in a room with 4,000 people versus being home alone. Because like I feel like even now, like as many times as I've been to Comic-Con, sitting in Hall H and watching a trailer and then having like the realization like a month later that like, oh, that trailer was actually really lame, but I was super stoked on it because everyone else was stoked on it. Versus like, because like
I like
be
that different. It will be different.
like that can't happen now, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's infectious.
It would be.
I mean,
the energy would totally be different, but you could still kind of get that same level of group think like excitement from a Twitch chat or a YouTube chat. If everyone's going, oh my god, and mashing the chat, I would still. We'll
we'll get those hype videos. We're still going to get the hype videos, but they're just in a different format. That's all. Because it's still going to happen. I remember being back in, I think it was 2009, the last Twilight film had come out, and I was in Hall H waiting for Avatar from James Cameron. I had no idea what Avatar was going to be. They hadn't shown any footage. This was going to be the first time you ever see any footage of it outside into the public. And I just remember being in a seat, sitting there, waiting for it. So I had to be in line with everyone else who was waiting for Twilight that came on prior. So when that kicked off and when Robert Pattinson came out there, I've never been in a room in my entire life that's gotten so loud.
Hell yeah. I was there too.
And,
I was in that Hall H.
It was
also
insane.
For Avatar,
I was scared.
Twilight, and it was the best.
Yeah. I remember purposely skipping the hype of the Twilight years because it was so hard to get into panels.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you guys got in for that.
There's no point. Yeah, I was like, there's no point. I can't.
Did you guys?
I can't compete
Did you guys
with this
camp
fandom.
out?
No,
I had a few connections to get in. That's the only reason I got in.
I made friends with some Twi moms. like the moms who are super into Twilight. So like I like ingratiated myself with this group of moms. And they like hooked me up
Twi
with this.
Moms existed.
It was the best. They were so cool.
You guys, do you remember Twi Moms?
Meg, do you
I do.
keep in touch? Do you keep in touch with the Twi Moms?
I don't. I used to though. I kept in touch with them for
I want to know what they're
time.
into right now.
I don't know what they're doing.
What do you think
now.
they moved on to?
Do they still identify as Twi Moms? Yeah.
Probably.
That they moved on to.
Moved on
What
to
is
a
their
different-
identity
different
now?
fandom.
Yeah. What's
Vampire
their fandom?
Diaries is around still.
Could be. Yeah.
They
They were
they. I
really
mean, a lot of
hyped
them.
for Mortal Engine.
Supernatural.
A lot of them migrated to 50 Shades,
Mortal Engine.
which was a real
Yeah.
They had high hopes for that adaptation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because 50
Well,
Shades
Twilight's
is just
coming back.
fanfic for Twilight.
Exactly.
Twilight's coming back again. Even it doesn't matter. You know it. I know it. It's gonna come back. So the Twilight moms are gonna be returning as well. When they'll find some streaming platform for it. I'm shocked they haven't done it yet. It's coming to Epics or something any week now. I know
I'm
it.
going to
You're
plant my
saying
flag
Twilight's
in the
coming
ground
back to Comic-Con?
right here. And
It
say
will
that
come
Twilight
back
is
to streaming
good-ish.
services.
Meg's gonna
Wait.
Meg's gonna get
Listen.
Meg is going to get this thought out.
Twilight is good because
Ish.
50 Shades exists.
Listen, the Twilight
I mean, I think it's all-
are
I think
good,
it's all
actually.
I saw every Twilight movie in the theater opening night.
Wow.
Me too, man.
Bla-
Whoa.
Blackout
too.
drunk.
I've only
Oh,
seen
dang.
one. I
Not
saw
drunk,
one.
but I definitely went and saw all of them.
It was my tradition throughout college and after going to get a water bottle full of vodka, a large Coke in an empty cup, and you kill that thing before the movie's over. And that was a blast. So I'm a huge Twilight fan.
I love it.
I went to the premiere, the midnight premiere for a film for I think it was the second to last one. It was like part one of whatever the last. I think it was Eclipse.
Breaking
I went
Dawn.
to that only because
Breaking
thank
Dawn
you.
Part 1?
Yes, Breaking Dawn Part 1. I went to that only because it was like it was like I was trying to not. There was a girl we kind of had a crush, but we were like, oh, let's go on a date. And I'm like, okay, but let's do it as like a joke. Let's, how about, oh, I know what's coming out. Twilight, let's do that. And I bought the tickets for this. It was like a cat and mouse between us. Like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. And it ended up with us actually going to the theater at midnight to watch that movie. Now, she was a huge Harry Potter fan, but she didn't know anything about Twilight like I did. And so she was screaming out into the audience, like, 10 points Gryffindor and stuff. And the everyone behind us, they kicked my chair, and I just thought, man, I'm going to get in a fight for this. This is what happens. This is how it
And
happens.
that's how
This
Greg
is
got in a fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's a fight
and-
with Twi Moms.
With
yes.
Twi Mom.
They were
Don't
so
tear your
mad.
eyes out. Don't ever fight with a Twi Mom.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Don't
Hey, I
ever.
didn't
They'll
want that
get ya.
smoke. I didn't do anything. But the fact was, that's the only time I've ever seen that movie. That's the only one I've watched. It was so bad. I thought this can't be. I didn't even want to watch the rest of them, and I still haven't to this day. I can't believe that's how it went down. There was no action, if I remember correctly. I think it all
Not in that
builds
one.
up. It builds up to nothing, and then it's over.
There's action.
There's
Just not the
that's
kind
right.
you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. It was the sex one. Okay,
Yeah.
now it's coming back to me.
So maybe Comic-Con should just stay canceled. Is that the conclusion?
Yes.
So in
We've gone full
conclusion, Twilight destroyed Comic-Con.
Yeah, I believe that.
That's not even true. Moving on to the next story, The Princess Bride is coming to Disney Plus on May 1st. Any Princess Bride fans here among me?
I like Princess
I like
Bride.
that film. I think it's good.
I think
Yeah.
it's fine. It's
I
one
like
of those things
it,
that like
yeah.
I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of people like.
It's a cute
have
I just
this weird
hesitate to
cult-like
say
devotion
fan.
to it that I don't.
Right.
But I still like it.
I mean, there must be something about it that it still has such a fan base to this day in 2020. But yeah, I'm happy that it's coming to Disney Plus. And also, in other Disney Plus news, Artemis Fowl, we knew it was coming to Disney Plus instead of theaters, but now it has a date, June 12th. So do you think we'll see more of this from Disney?
I think they've said as much that they're going to be looking at this for other movies. I want to know more about Artemis Fowl. I don't know anything about this. Can anyone explain this
Me
to
neither.
me?
Same.
No idea.
Meg?
None.
Meg?
I read the book. Why do you automatically?
I knew it.
Meg,
I
we're
knew
looking at you.
Listen.
Help us, Meg.
I read the book.
Who is Artemis Fowl?
I read the books when I was in like middle school, and I say books. I think I only read one of them. I don't remember even how many there are, but it's like a fun YA fantasy novel that starts with like a kid. It starts as kind of like a James Bond, but a kid type situation, then turns into like fantasy with fairies and whatnot. I remember really, really liking it as a child. I have not revisited it, so I think it's going to be very cute, but I also know that this movie has had just an astronomical amount of like production problems. Like it's been delayed a million times and like shuffled around a million times. So I think they actually finished it back in like 2016 or something, which is a long delay for a movie to come out. So
wait, so when this kid finally gets to go to his own red carpet, he's gonna look like he's 22.
There is no red carpet.
Different.
Like he's not even getting a red carpet for it. Like yeah, so it's wild. I don't know. Like I like Kenneth Branagh as a director though, so I think it's gonna be gonna be cute.
Kenneth
I remember
Branagh,
the book being very
Meg.
charming.
Projects like this.
Meg, officially as our resident Artemis Fowl correspondent, as the only person who's read the book, how hyped are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Probably a 5. I'll definitely watch it. Like I'll watch it.
It's good enough.
It's available on Disney Plus, which we already have.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think a lot of people are gonna watch it because they already have that streaming service.
And I'm
so
sure
I think it might even get more.
What happened to New Mutants?
Yeah.
Is New Mutants coming
That's
out?
a good question.
Oh, New Mutant's dead. It's not coming back.
I don't
never
think they gave
coming
it a date.
out. It's
It's never coming out. That movie is doomed.
Yeah, I think so too.
They didn't give it a date. It's TBD.
It's gonna pop up on Hulu any day now. Just a random Thursday night.
It's gonna
3 a.m.
No, it's just
3 a.m. drop on Hulu. Oh, poor New Mutants.
they should just chop it up into like
speaking of-
8 half-hour episodes.
That's
or
one I really.
something, and
I
just
want to
turn
see
it
a red
into little
carpet for that movie.
miniseries.
Yeah, they might as well. They really might as well. Well, speaking of superhero movies, the Batman release date has also been delayed until October 1st, 2021. So that's 4 months later than planned, but Deadline notes that only a quarter of the movie was shot, and Matt Reeves said he plans to return to London to resume production once it's safe to do so. So that's still not quite set in stone, so we don't know if this is the official release date. But yeah, there's just delays across the board for the DC movies as well. Wonder Woman, do you think that will actually drop in August? I'm starting to think no.
Of this year or next year?
This year.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's
going to happen.
Probably not.
Yeah.
At this point,
Theaters are going to be
think
closed longer than anything else. Again, these are cold environments, so the virus is just waiting there like, hi, everybody. So it takes a little bit longer for movie theaters to reach up to speed with everyone else. So it's going to be a second.
This news.
I think August was a little ambitious.
Yeah, this news was actually the only thing that reminded me that the Flash movie is still technically supposed to be happening. I thought it was dead. Like,
Moving forward a month, June 3rd, 2022, baby. It's
I don't
gonna
believe
happen.
it. I'll
Ezra,
believe when I
maybe.
see it.
Come on,
It's
Ezra.
happening.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Ezra
the Ezra
one?
one.
It's
Baby
gone
boy.
through like 17
Ezra.
directors.
it's not happening. It's not going to happen because
Ezra's
he chose
Oh, yeah,
to.
also that.
people,
Ugh.
I don't know. This is going to be a second. I think he.
Did they ever?
Was that
I don't
confirmed?
remember whether WB ever put out
They
a
didn't,
statement
and
about
I think
that.
I can't even prove when that happened too. So we don't know if that was recent or a while back. So it's a big mess. But I think the movie may happen at some point because again, this is the film that's going to change the timeline for the DC. So all the crap that's happening in the background with Snyder and everything else, they're trying to get this movie out so they can use it as a launching point for a new kind of timeline and franchises to go from there. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Could
I'll
they just
believe
do
it when I
that?
see
Flash
it.
and a different Flash and a different movie, but I know.
I mean, they literally put Joker out, and that has nothing to
True.
do with any of
True.
the other
Just-
movies. So it's like they don't need like a
In
like
canon
an
thing, yeah.
universe excuse to hit the reset button. They could just do that. There's no like rule that they have to do that just because Marvel stayed consistent for a decade
Very
somehow.
true.
They'll be
And
damned
also
if they don't. They'll try it.
And Shazam 2 has been pushed from April 22 to November 2022. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to more Shazam. That should be fun.
I think that'll happen. That one will
I
definitely
think that will happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because the first one was that considered a success? I think so, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think
Yes.
it definitely did. It did well. Everyone really liked it.
People liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It made its money back for its modest budget. Pretty good. Even, I think we talked about this before, but Birds of Prey was the same way. It made its money back as well.
Yes. We're all big supporters of Birds of Prey. But yeah,
the narrative of Birds of Prey was that it was not successful.
It was.
But yeah, as you said, it made its money back, and it was critically acclaimed. So
Yeah.
Yep.
you know,
I'm pretty optimistic about the Batman. How about you guys? Any thoughts?
I am. I think it's going to get
I'm
delayed
really excited
quite
about
a few
it,
more times here,
honestly.
even for pickups, I think, as well. I think they're going to try. They're really, really trying. I think I like the direction they're going here. We
talked a little bit about this a couple episodes ago, but Meg, I'd love to hear your take. What are you hoping for this film?
I'm hoping. I really want a Pattinson Bruce Wayne movie. Like, I'm way less interested in Pattinson's take on Batman specifically than I am on Pattinson as Bruce. So I really, and like Matt Reeves has talked about this before, but the idea that it's going to be a more detective based film, which I think is really interesting because I'm very much sick of solo Batman movies. Like, if you're going to make a Batman movie, I want a Robin in it or several Robins in it. And that's that. And so it's going to take a little bit of doing for me to care about a new Batman that doesn't have like a family to support him. So I don't know. I'm really excited about Colin Farrell. I'm really excited about everybody else that's been like, the cast is stacked. It has the potential to be very, very interesting. I'm hoping that it is. That's what I'll say. Like, I'm optimistic. I'm excited about it, but I'm still like kind of like, I hope you pull it off.
I too. I think
I like that optimism, Meg.
Yeah.
When it comes to Robert Pattinson, you already know the camera is going to love him. So they're going to treat him the same way they treated Michael Keaton with that camera angle and those close-ups for his two Batman films. So I feel like it's going to be the same. So you're going to get a lot of him. But I want to see what Colin Farrell does, too. I really want to see if he can pull off that character.
That was the only question mark that we all had when we were talking about it on the previous episode was, like, all of the casting made sense, and then Colin Farrell as Penguin was like...
Hot Oswald Cobblepot is going to be a weird thing.
Have you seen him lately?
Yes.
I have not seen him lately.
Yeah, he's, I can see it. At this, like, 2020 Colin Farrell is different from a lot of Colin Farrells that we've known.
Total
in the
Recall
past.
Colin Farrell. Yeah,
in Bruges Colin Farrell. Come on.
The Lobster was good.
In Bruges Colin Farrell is like a 10 out of 10 for sure. But, it's been some years since then.
He's gone and done The Lobster.
Yes, The Lobster was great.
He sure did. Killing. Did somebody say Killing of a Sacred Deer? Doing those movies takes its toll.
All right, the next segment is You Should Be Watching, and this week we're going to be talking about how you should be watching DEVS instead of any other sci-fi show right now. DEVS is our favorite one currently. It just wrapped. It's on Hulu. You can watch all 8 episodes now, and you can watch those breakdowns on GameSpot Universe too from Mike and Meg. That's why we've got Mike and Meg here to talk about it. So you guys have also been watching Westworld at the same time. I've been watching Westworld. Greg's been watching Westworld. We've all watched DEVS. There are a lot of similarities and parallels, so let's talk about that. So
yeah, thematically they're super similar.
Yeah, for sure. So Meg, I'm going to toss to you really quick because you just wrote something up for GameSpot where I think the headline was along the lines of like, if you're frustrated with Westworld Season 3, try DEVS instead. So what brought you to write that, and tell us a little bit more about how you feel.
Here's the thing. I want to first disclaim myself in that I've enjoyed Westworld Season 3. Like, I think it's a fun show. I just think it's a very, very different show than what Westworld Season 1 was, which is a little bit frustrating because I liked Westworld Season 1 a lot. And then I didn't like Season 2 because I couldn't figure it out. And then Season 3 came, and it's very interesting and very fun, but it's not what was on the box for Season 1 at all. And I think that a lot of what Westworld Season 3 is trying to do is kind of ask the question about, like, how far would you go for freedom? What is freedom? Are humans free? Does free will exist? Which are all questions that DEVS is asking in a much more interesting kind of nuanced way, whereas Westworld season 3 is asking those questions with explosions and, you know, gunfights and Dolores, you know, being a badass, which is fine and fun, but it's not the sort of philosophical content that I want from that, you know, that sort of theme, I guess. So I mean, I think they're both equally good shows. It's not an apples to oranges comparison, or it's not exactly a 1-to-1 comparison either, but if you want that like meaty philosophical sci-fi that Westworld season 1 was, DEVS is the answer to that for sure.
Completely agree with
that was the idea for that article came from Meg and I talking about how exactly that, how we just miss Westworld season 1 so much because it was so intelligent in the way that it examined these questions of like it was centered on Dolores, right? Like is she human? Is she like sentient? Are her thoughts and feelings real and valid, you know, or not valid because she was constructed, right? And the show is completely, I think, lost interest in that question, and it feels like a completely different show now. And so the discussion we were having was, why is DEVS so much better at this than Westworld is?
Yeah, completely agree. So before we jump into some of the parallels between the shows, can I ask you guys what made DEVS so great? Like, just in your eyes, what makes this such a must-watch show?
I think
it's the writing.
Yeah, just there's nobody doing it like Alex Garland does it, and I think that he's consistently been that. Like even through, you know, like Sunshine, which is a movie he did not direct but he did write. Like there's always something there that's very, very thoughtful and interesting, and there's so many layers packed into what he does, and I think that it's tailor made for those big complicated questions. Whereas like something like Westworld season 3 is not built to have those discussions anymore because it's built to be a fun action show. Whereas DEVS was conceived from the ground up with that in mind, because that's what Alex Garland does and has proven time and time again that that's what he does super, super well, which I think it's an auteurist miniseries. It reminds me of the same feeling that I had when I watched True Detective season 1, where it was all, you know, Cary Joji Fukunaga and Nick Pizzolatto doing all the episodes and having a very clear vision in mind. And, like, I love that. That's perfect.
I totally agree that Westworld is like a sci-fi action show at this point, right? It's no longer like like the whole first season was written as this very cerebral exploration of this one central idea, like personified in the maze that the Man in Black was searching for, and now it's a sci-fi action show, which is fun. I love sci-fi action, but if there's something that I love more than sci-fi action, it's like hard sci-fi, like the movie I bring up constantly, which is Blade Runner 2049 from the past like 5 years, right? There's very little action in that movie, but that's the kind of sci-fi that gets me, and I would put it, they don't seem that alike on the surface, but I would put DEVS into the same category.
So, Greg, you've been watching both shows, and as someone who hasn't had to work on the breakdowns and tear these things apart, as someone who's just been absorbing it for fun, what is your take on watching both at the same time?
Listen, I like both of them. Westworld is, I can tell, you know where they're going now at this point. It's just budget. They keep going. The budget, you got to pay for these actors, so you have to change the story a little bit. So now you introduce new characters, this down on his luck new guy, played by, you know, Aaron Paul, who's now this like Total Recall character who has to, you know, you were rooting for this guy. And then halfway through the script, it seems like they've given up on that, and they're trying to like pull us into this other characters that, without giving any spoilers away here, it just seems like they're just trying to go down the line where it feels like they're going to close up shop any day now. I don't know where they're going.
Do you think this is the end for Westworld?
It could be like The Wire. It could just be like The Wire, and they're just moving on from next subject to next subject, but going over the main theme of what is free will. And DEVS is just basically like determinism 101. It's from beginning to end, and Alex Garland from the beginning all the way back to the beach, just looking at this product going, yeah, I can see this happening. I can see how he got to this point in his career where he made something like this, where it's beautiful and it tells a story, but it's not for everybody. It's weird. How do you recommend this to everybody out there when you know damn well that some people are going to go, I'm good, I'm cool after a few and maybe 2 episodes.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone.
It is not.
Yeah, for sure.
It's beautiful. I loved it. I'll probably watch it again whenever I get a chance to, but it's something about that. Like my partner, when we got to the end of it, and we'll talk about it in more details, I guess, in a second, but when we got to the end, there's a point where there's the subjectiveness of this property of DEVS is going to there's a divergence there with everyone, viewers themselves, whether they liked it or not. I loved it. I want more of it. I know there's only going to be one. Well, again, let's go into that a little later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now we can talk about spoilers. So if you are not caught up on DEVS or Westworld, please skip to the next time code, which we will provide down below. But we are going to dip into some spoilers for DEVS and Westworld to just kind of compare and contrast. So for those...
Westworld up to what point? Because
yes.
we're 6 episodes in now?
Yes, up to episode 6. So
Okay.
if you're not caught up by episode 6, then we are kind of diving into it here. But we're mostly talking about all of DEVS. So because you guys have been breaking down all of DEVS, just as a whole, how is that experience watching the entire season week by week? Do you think it's better to watch week by week, or do you think it'd be better to binge all of it at once?
It's a lot to binge, but it's really one full movie. At the end of the day, it's one long story. But keep that in mind that you're going to be lost if you try to watch it all in one binge. So you need breaks. I think Mike said that too.
Yeah, I had a really good time sort of chewing on each episode week to week, like watching it once and then watching it again right before we would shoot our video, and just really letting each hour-long morsel like marinate in my brain.
I actually
and cook me from the inside out.
I came to it both ways. I had the screeners to do the review before we started doing the breakdown, and so I binged it entirely the first time through. And then I think I did it in February. I binged the entire thing and did, I think, over 2 days, I think is how I did it. And then for the breakdowns, I rewatched everything twice. And so I would rewatch it week by week 2 times before we would do the breakdowns. And I definitely got a lot more out of it with the separation of each episode, where I could actually like take the time to go through each little moment like piece by piece. And I think it's a show that's really built for that. So I mean, even if you're gonna just watch an episode a day, I think is how I would recommend you do it, without going through and binging the entire thing, but without waiting a week between episodes, I think is like the perfect way to watch the show.
I mean, it was hard. I had all 8 episodes, at the same time you did, Meg, and it was really hard for me every week to not just watch all of them. Like I wanted to just watch at the pace that they were airing, so that we could have an honest discussion in which I would speculate about what I thought was going to happen without having that secret knowledge. And it was hard. Now, if you compare that to Westworld, I don't give a hoot what's happening on Westworld. Like I have no desire to watch more. Like I'll watch it week to week because we're covering it on the site and whatever, but it's not inspiring like that need to keep watching that like a really good binge show. So if
you were just watching it, do you think you would have dropped off by now and stopped watching
Westworld?
Yeah,
I would have dropped off in season 2.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's I mean like a little inside baseball, but like the traffic numbers for Westworld season 3 coverage are low. Like
and
the interest in the show is just
lower.
completely fallen off a cliff.
I could have told you that second watching this season and what they've done with the characters and how they've just changed the story just about, again, free will. And the characters, who cares? They do not give a damn. It's all story at this point. And I love the story. I love the Westworld season 3 story, what they're going with. But when it comes to just Westworld as a whole, they've left that show a long time ago. They put in the great beyond with everything else.
What does this season have to do with previous seasons?
Nothing.
Honestly, like it feels
Not
like
much.
a completely different show. It feels like they got
like a
bored of
spin-off.
the show that they were making and decided to just like Rehoboam or whatever, like the big computer
Rehoboam.
that
Rehoboam.
like decides everything about society has never been mentioned before. All of this is new stuff that they introduced in this season, that Dolores has decided that she's now fixated on this. And it's like, where's the through line?
I feel like
Bummer
someone in a room said they didn't want to do other parks. Someone just said, you know what? I don't want to continue doing more parks each and every season.
Right.
I don't want season 5 to be on Samurai Park. So they just said, all right, let's give them the real world and make stuff up. It's okay, but it's not Westworld.
It's a bummer too, because like now, like at first I was very on board with the whole Rehoboam thing, and I was like, oh, I understand like the narrative here, like I get it. But now, looking at it as far as we are into the season, it has really kind of lessened the stakes of seasons 1 and 2, too. Because, like, that was the big question, right? Was the fact that the hosts were in the narrative loops, and, like, that's what differentiated them from the humans. And that was the question, is, like, okay, if you're on a narrative loop, do you have the capacity to break free from that? And now it's like, oh, well, all of the humans are on narrative loops, too, kind of. So it doesn't really matter. And it's like, well, okay.
Not shocking.
I mean,
and it's also not shocking.
yeah. No, it's just, it's
to
like,
go with that route.
That's fine.
And at the same,
but then that's where the parallels with devs come in, right? Because it's really what at its core what it's about is a big tech company deciding the course of individual human lives with no input from those people, and that's where the question of free will comes from. But obviously, we feel that one of those shows has done a much better job of examining that question. And Westworld has the budget and it has the talent behind it. So is it really just the influence of Alex Garland, like as an auteur, that we feel has made devs like such a more successful examination of this?
Do you think there was like more pressure to make it more action focused, to add more gun scenes and explosions set to music? It feels more like an action piece than analyzing the questions that it's presenting at the beginning of the season. I feel like it presented
HBO had to do something with all that Game of Thrones budget they're not using anymore.
They put a dragon in there.
Yeah, they did.
They sure. Oh my god, they sure.
Yeah,
did.
they
sure
did.
Put a dragon in there.
That was the worst.
Now,
that was a shark jump.
The
for
worst thing
sure.
Westworld, which it is.
Yeah,
they're still doing it again.
It's not even a cameo. Like if it was a cameo from Game of Thrones actors or something, like if they played a couple of hosts or whatever, it was a cameo from David and Dan, the showrunners of Game of Thrones. Who cares about
it's
those
a
two
pat on the
groups?
back for everyone in the production office. Like, yeah, we did it.
It's
cringy.
So off base.
It's very cringy. I know.
Tone deaf.
But the thing is, Westworld itself, again, with the characters, since we've all caught up, we can talk about at least the last episode we just saw with Charlotte bot Shaloris, I think we can call her. Shaloris. I think a showrunner said that too, so I didn't.
Dorlot.
Yeah, I like that one.
Dorlot.
The thing is, it's so weird because they're trying to get you at this point of the show. They're like, what characters do we have that an audience member or anyone could just root for? Because we don't got many of them left. You can't root for Dolores. Bernard's off in his own head. He doesn't know who he is in himself, so you can't really go with him.
And neither do I.
No one knows.
What's his plan?
I have no idea.
So in the last episode.
Yeah.
I also don't know
off,
like the whole William thing with like
Hale's
William
family
in therapy with himself. No. Boring.
Because William's still driving himself insane, whether he's human or not human, which doesn't really matter at this point.
Doesn't
if he's
matter.
this sentient and he knows what's going, it doesn't matter if he's not.
Who cares?
Human or not.
It
doesn't
felt like
matter.
they just wanted to get Jimmy Simpson back.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Yeah.
But at the end of the
Which is
day,
fun.
they keep reaching and trying to get you to go, okay, these are the bad guys and these are the good guys. See, we killed off Charlotte Hale's family that you just met for only maybe 5 minutes of screen time between the two in the last episode and this one. But they're dead now, so you should be really upset at Sirach and everything he's doing to stop, the robots from taking over
But they
and
already
wiping out human
murdered
race.
Charlotte Hale.
Yeah.
And took her place.
Yes.
So why would I care? Like if my
That's the
sympathy
actor.
is
That
with,
is the actor. You need to. They have to pay for the actor, so they got to give her a new role since she's not the bad
For
guy
sure.
anymore. And they have to
But
make
my
him look
point is, if my sympathy is with the hosts, then why do I care about like Charlotte's
yeah.
family?
You shouldn't. You shouldn't at
The
all.
humans are the. I don't want to make it like black and white, like bad guys, good guys, but it's
Right.
like our sympathy was with the hosts for season 1 and 2.
Yes.
and now I'm just confused.
But now you have Dolores,
it is hard
who's
to
crazy.
figure out who to root for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dolores, who wants to wipe everyone out, so the humans are trying to save themselves. And the only man who knows what to do is Serac, who has his own time machine that may or may not be really telling the future. So I like that. I like that.
Speaking
plot.
of telling the future, I mean, Meg and I have obviously spoken at great length about DEVS.
Actually. You mean, we don't have to call it DEVS anymore. Since we're out of spoilers, we don't have to call it DEVS anymore. It's Deus.
Right, Deus's conclusion.
Thank you.
And
Greg
they
and Chastity,
change it,
what do you guys think?
Of DEVS, of the conclusion?
Yeah, no, of the conclusion specifically. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I was pretty blown away by watching the finale, and I was emotional and I was scared and I had a lot of feelings. I was like paranoid, scared, emotional, but I was also happy, and I also felt warm at the same time because of the whole Jamie and Lily thing. But yeah, it came together very nicely, but it also blew my mind, and just like I felt lost through some episodes of it, but I feel like it all came together beautifully, and I'm really happy with it, and I feel like I would want to rewatch it. So I've only watched the whole season once. I haven't watched it twice, but I think I would go back again and binge it.
I think that was a really nice way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I this the same way with for me though, the second the credits rolled and Alex Garland's name came up there, written and directed by, I just looked at the screen and went, "You son of a bitch. I love you." he ended it on a joke.
I like
son of a bitch, I'm in.
It is. That's really what I went with. Son of a bitch, I'm in.
Greg, I literally, the credits rolled on DEVS, and I literally immediately watched Ex Machina.
Yeah,
I just
I highly recommend
that.
If anyone's listening to this or watching it, please watch Ex Machina, because you'll even if you're watching DEVS right now, stop, watch Ex Machina, then come back, because it's so good. It's so good for the ending.
It's supplemental watching.
It's great for that ending.
I liked Ex Machina a lot when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
but
this just
now, having consumed much more of Garland's like brain smoothie into my mind, rewatching Ex Machina, I appreciated it a lot more. And there's literally mentions of determinism in Ex Machina, so it's like
Garland brought up
like
they can be in the same world. Actually, he did say in an interview that they are, and there's some timeline where that character, was it Nick? I think, is it Nick, Oscar Isaac's character, and Foster have met. He says they would have hated each other, because one is just, again, Forrest is the entrepreneur, so the two of them would not get along at all. One would think the other's crazy, and the other one would just resent Forrest for everything he's doing. So with that said, I just love the fact that they ended it, again, just Deus Ex, Ghost in a Machine. To end it on such a frustrating note too. Like, I hated, just personally, I hated the fact that what happens to Lily and how that goes down. But then you have to just go with your own idea of what do you consider free will or determinism, and this whole timeline of whether or not, did they make it out? And you get your good ending if you believe so. You get your Deus Ex moment that they're off in heaven somewhere, living another life together in multiple timelines though. But
the thing that has really stuck with me afterward is the idea that she really disproved the whole thing right in that final moment. So
by making a choice.
If you're Forrest and Katie, you have to be asking yourself for the rest of your life, or your simulated life or whatever, was any of that really necessary? Like, could I actually have could I did Lily have to die? Did we have to inflict this on this other person?
That's the part that really kills me about the finale, is the fact that Katie is left so in the lurch, and like, at least Forrest, he's going to be contemplating that stuff in the simulation with Lily there to like talk to, at least like he can relate to, her, but Katie back in the real world has absolutely no one to, like, what is she supposed to do? Like, just understand that she's
just watch the box.
It's so brutal.
So Katie can talk to Forrest when Forrest is like in the white room right after the jump scare. Katie and he have a discussion, so I wonder if Katie could just like voice of God into the simulation.
I don't think
It
so.
seems
Just
like she
like-
can.
I don't know.
That
Was
just
it only
talk-
for
I
that
think she
moment?
just talked
Was
to
it just
Lily.
for that
Why
moment?
not?
I
Why
think
not?
it was just
And
for that moment,
Lily-
because I think that Forrest was uploaded into like a liminal space that wasn't the simulation yet, and so when he's put in the simulation, it's a different situation, right? I don't know. I feel like she can't just like Truman Show the whole thing and like be
Who
like,
knows?
surprise, it's me.
That would be the SNL sketch about if Devs was like way more popular. That would be like the like when Kylo Ren like goes undercover boss. Remember that SNL sketch?
Yeah.
This would be that version of that for Devs.
Yeah. God.
Like if I'm
right, so-
if I'm Lily, what I would be scared to even have sex or do anything because I'm like, this is a giant simulation. What if Katie's watching right at this moment?
Oh, because Katie's watching.
Katie, yeah.
Or worse
Think
yet,
about
Stewart
that.
is watching.
Yes. You just have to take that out. I don't think she knows though. I don't think Lily knows that Katie was watching because Katie didn't talk to Lily.
Yeah.
Right.
Lily
I don't
knows
think
it's a
Lily knows that
simulation.
Katie is. But
Yeah.
she, yeah.
But Lily knows about the visualization chamber,
Yeah,
and she
she
knows
does.
that they're in a simulation. So
That's
I
all
think
you
you
need
just-
to know.
In her place, you just have to let that go and go on with your life because otherwise, how can you go on every day?
Or I would,
or just live your life
Yeah.
at all times as if somebody is watching.
yeah, it would be like Groundhog's
might
Day.
be.
I would do whatever the
Model
hell I wanted.
citizen.
Are you
You don't
kidding
know.
me?
You don't know.
Model citizen,
Model citizen.
or just like even more super depraved because like whatever.
You live your life in a way that no one wants to watch, so it's fine.
They'll just change the channel. They'll just change the channel to
real
a
life
different
version
person.
would be
They're like,
so
this is weird.
disturbing.
I don't
This
like
would-
it. Yeah. What's this other person up to? Yeah. Right. Well, in summation, watch Devs. It's great, and watch all of Alex Garland's work because it's all fantastic. That's it for this episode of You Should Be Watching. Thanks for joining us. And if you want any recommendations for specific genres or specific streaming services, let us know. Reach out to us via email at ysbw@gamespot.com. That's ysbw@gamespot.com. You can also listen to this very podcast on the place of your choice. We're on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. And be sure to follow us on Twitter. You can find me at Chastity_V. Greg?
I'm at Greg Spot Thomas.
Mike?
I'm at Rogue Cheddar.
And Meg.
I'm at Rusty Polished.
All right. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. And thank you all for listening. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.